An analysis of pre-Civil War slavery through timeline events. English 3 Lit project by Johann Brandl and Kyle Kirk. In 1619, slavery began when a Dutch ship brought the first permanent African settlers to Jamestown, Virginia, foreshadowing the expansion of slavery as it came to be known pre-Civil War era. In 1641, Massachusetts became the first colony to recognize slavery as a legal institution in the 1641 Body of Liberties. Jumping forward to 1791, Eli Whitney patents the cotton gin, making it possible for the expansion of slavery in the South. Revolutionary idealism in the United States had led to some strong talk of freeing the slaves, from such people as Thomas Jefferson. Whitney's cotton gin, though, led to an economy based off a single Southern staple, where the phrase went, "Cotton is king," and a plantation system dominated the South, despite the financial instability of such a macroeconomic fiscal investment in a single crop atmosphere, sort of a putting all your eggs in one basket. However, 2 years later, in 1793, the United States Congress enacts the first fugitive slave law requiring the return of fugitive slaves. This legislation would be further expanded upon in 1850. In the next century, in 1829, David Walker published his book, An Appeal to Colored Citizens of the World, which advocated a bloody and violent end to the white supremacy, one of the first American books published advocating for abolitionism. In 1831, we saw the first action based off the ideas of abolitionism, when the semi-literate black preacher Nat Turner followed the ideals of the book An Appeal to Colored Citizens of the World when he led a slave rebellion, which was swiftly crushed. 5 years later, in 1836, the controversy over free people endangers free speech when the gag resolution is passed. This resolution required that all anti-slavery appeals be legislatively tabled before any debate could be held on them. In around the year 1840, the book The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, written by Mark Twain, takes place, somewhere around this time period. Furthermore, half of the value of all American exports begin to come directly from the Southern cotton industry. In 1850, the Fugitive Slave Law is expanded upon, or, as it was commonly known, the Bloodhound Bill, which was passed in the United States Congress on September 18, 1850, as a part of the Compromise of 1850 between Southern slaveholding interests and Northern free soilers. This was one of the most controversial elements of the 1850 Compromise and heightened Northern fears of a slave power conspiracy. It required that all escaped slaves were, upon capture, to be returned to their masters, and that officials and citizens of free states had to cooperate with this law. Abolitionists named it the Bloodhound Bill for the dogs that were used to track down runaway slaves. Furthermore, Nathaniel Hawthorne published his book, The Scarlet Letter. In 1852, Harriet Beecher Stowe's best-known novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin, changed forever how Americans viewed slavery. It demanded that the United States deliver on the promise of freedom and equality, galvanized the abolitionist movement, and contributed to the outbreak of the Civil War. In 1860, 1 year before the start of the Civil War, the total population of the United States was at 31,183,000. The amount of free colored persons was at 476,000. The total free population of the United States was just over 27 million, while the total number of slaves was just under 4 million. Slaves, as a percent of the total population, represented 13% of the population of the United States. In the year 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation was issued. The Emancipation Proclamation was a presidential proclamation issued by then-President Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863, as a war measure during the Civil War, directed to all areas of the Southern states in rebellion and all segments of the executive branch, for example, the Army and Navy of the United States. It supposedly proclaimed the freedom of all slaves in the 10 states that were still in rebellion. However, the proclamation did not compensate the owners, did not itself outlaw slavery because it was not a law, and did not make the ex-slaves, called freedmen, citizens of the United States. It did, however, make the eradication of slavery an explicit war goal, in addition to the goal of reuniting the Union. On August 20th, 1866, President Andrew Johnson signed a proclamation declaring that peace, order, tranquility, and civil authority now exists in and throughout the whole of the United States of America. It, quote, said, "And I do further proclaim that the said insurrection is at an end, and that the peace, order, tranquility, and civil authority now exist in and throughout the whole of the United States of America." Finally, not only as a culmination of slavery pre and post Civil War and its effects, but also the ideals of the abolitionist movement, inspired the publication of the work, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, by Mark Twain, which was first published in England in December of 1884, and in the United States in February of 1885. It is considered the great American novel,